Hello again, YouTube. Alright, so last video I showed how to basically pick up these pellet objects and make them they would destroy themselves and add 1 to the score of the player. So in this video I'm going to be sort of making a complete game out of this. So when the player collects 10 pellets, their score is replaced with the phrase "you win" and then the game ends. Or I think I'll actually make it restart. It could be either. But, so yeah, let's get right into it. So, I did make one minor change since last time. Instead of drawing the score up in the corner where it was hard to see, it is now drawn right over the player. So I can pick up these pellets, and it'll increase. I can show you the code for that. All it was that instead of having, instead of having x equals 2, y equals 2, it's the player's x and y minus certain amounts. These minus amounts are just sort of to keep it centered, and you could play with these if you wanted. They look kind of complicated, but they're really not too bad. You could just play around with subtracting different amounts if you wanted. All it is keeping the text centered. But anyway, so if we want to measure when the player gets 10 pellets, then we can basically sense if my score equals 10. So that is basically checking if my score is 10. And we all know that my score will be 10 if you pick up 10 pellets, because the pellets each add 1 every time you pick one up. So what we can do is, I'm just going to leave this empty for now, because we need to make a new variable, which I'm going to call did win. I'm going to set it to 0. I'm just going to say 0 representing false. But now what we're going to do is if my score equals 10, did win equals 1. And I'm just going to let 1 mean like true. And so what we can do is we will also say, I'm going to use something new, which is an alarm. So I'm going to say alarm 0, and you can reference alarms with these brackets and their number. And I'll show you the alarm in the actual event window right after this. But I'm going to set that to 120. And then just so the alarm doesn't trigger multiple times, I'm going to set my score equals 0. So since we have an alarm, we want to add an alarm event. So I've made alarm 0, and now you can see why. Now you can see why I put alarm in brackets 0 as the alarm name. So when I set it to 120, that means that it is set to a timer for 120 frames, or about 2 seconds, since I'm at 60 frames per second. So what that is once the alarm is set, it'll trigger 120 frames later, or basically what I've set is a single timer for 2 seconds later. So 2 seconds later, let's just say game end. Alright, so what we have now is when your score equals 10, a new variable saying that you've won is set to true, or 1 really in this case, because I've just set that to mean true. The alarm 0 is set to 2 seconds, and my score is set to 0. The reason why you have to set my score to 0 is so it doesn't keep setting the alarm to 120, because then it would just stay at 120 constantly and never actually take effect. So we're just going to set it like that, and then 2 seconds later, an alarm 0, the game ends. So now what we also want to do is we want to basically make a very simple message to the player that they've won. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if did win equals 0, then draw text so and so. But if you have one, I'm going to use else, which is basically you can use else after a if statement to basically represent all the different cases that are not what is in the if statement. So anything but did win equals 0 is now going to take effect now. So what I'm going to say is else draw text. I'm going to say x minus 20, because this is going to be a fairly long string, y minus 20, And then if you want to write text in a draw text statement, you just have to enclose it in quotes. So I'm going to say you win. I think this could be a little less. So let's see what this is like. So if we actually play this now, so did win is false, so it's still drawing the score. But if I quickly collect each one of these pellets, this might be a little boring to watch, but I'm just gonna do this for sake of example. Actually, here, you know what? This was a waste of time. I'm just gonna do some cheating, which is set my score to 10, just from the very beginning. So what this is going to do is it's going to trigger that alarm right at the very beginning. But as you can see, it writes you win, and then actually it just quit because 2 seconds later it just quits the game. But what we can do is we can say game, instead of end, another function is restart, which basically just restarts it completely. So if we do this now, and actually I noticed that the you win text was a little off center, so I'm going to set that to like -18, just so it's a little better. I just like things to look nice balanced. So as you can see, it says you win, and then, oh, I just realized I forgot to do something. So in this case, I just forgot, we need to set did win to 0. Actually, never mind, I just that. Let's set my score equals 0. Actually, I think actually I don't think I can cheat with this, so I'm actually gonna have to set this to 0. But anyway, I'll just show you what this looks like and then end off the video, because now we basically have a playable game. So what happens is we go through this treacherous maze, collecting each pellet. Hopefully this isn't too boring to watch. It probably will be, but I'm just going to use this as, I just want to show you the finished product. So we can go through this maze, winding through the passages, and just collecting the pellets. You know, this game is kind of reminding me a fair amount of Pac-Man. I don't know. I didn't really intend that, but I mean, blue walls, circular protagonist collecting pellets. But anyway, I'm just gonna finish collecting these real soon. And we can see the you win text in action. So yeah. After this video, I'll probably add some. I'll probably show you how to add some kind of enemy. But yeah, as you can see, it says you win and then restarts. All the pellets are back to their original forms. My score is back at 0, and I can collect them all over again. After this video, probably next video, I'll be covering some sort of enemies or some sort of hazards that I could do. But for now, I think that's it. See you next time, YouTube.